No, we are concerned about, all hostages.
Terry Waite in Beirut, amid reports that a new hostage has been seized.
New questions about Oliver North. Did he lie to the White House? A decade since the return of the death penalty. It may be more popular than ever.
And if you want your own Swiss bank account, Robert Krulwich tells you how.
This fellow is clearly a very innocent.
This is the CBS Morning News. Good morning. I'm Forrest Sawyer.
And I'm Faith Daniels. It's Tuesday, January 13th.
A mission to free the hostages in Lebanon has new urgency this morning. A French journalist covering Terry Waite's return to Beirut has been kidnapped. CBS newsman Juan Carlos Gamuccio has details.
Roger Ogg was among the few foreign journalists covering Terry Waite's mission in West Beirut this morning. After a picture session with Waite, Ogg, a French freelance photographer, went home to collect equipment. At least 2 gunmen waited outside, and they grabbed him as he got out of the elevator. He was with another French journalist who managed to escape. Some shots were fired in the air as the kidnappers escaped in a car. No group claimed responsibility for the abduction, which came precisely as Waite started a new mission to win the release of 19 foreigners. Ogg had just turned 31 last week and is a veteran in covering Lebanon's wars. Now he is among 5 Frenchmen missing in Beirut. Juan Carlos Gamuccio, CBS News, Beirut.
For more on Waite's efforts to win freedom for the captives, Doug Tennell reports from Damascus.
The revelations of the U.S. Arms for Hostages deals with Iran may have made Terry Waite's job more dangerous and more difficult, but they have also made Terry Waite more determined.
I've had direct contact with those who've been holding the American hostages.
They are believed to number 5. Terry Anderson and Thomas Sutherland are the 2 longest-held hostages. Both were kidnapped in 1985. Frank Reed, Joseph Cicipio, and Edward Tracy have been missing in Lebanon since mid-1986. A 6th American, William Buckley, is believed to have been murdered by his captors. Terry Waite has repeatedly denied all knowledge of or involvement in the arms sales linked to at least 3 earlier hostage releases.
If even the American government had approached me about arms dealing, which they didn't, I would have had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Waite will not say what, if anything, is being offered in the bargaining today. He has simply confirmed that he's been in contact with the kidnappers, and he's hopeful of meeting them again face-to-face soon. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Damascus.
New controversy today around Oliver North, the man said to have masterminded the Iran-Contra money deal. North reportedly told associates he had threatened to kill Iranian arms middleman Manuka Gorbani Farr if word of the arms for hostages swap got out. Fred Graham joins us live in our Washington bureau with more on the Oliver North saga. Good morning to you, Fred, and we're getting rather a different picture of Oliver North all the time.
Yes, we are. Good morning. The Gorbani Farr story is just the latest, actually, Forrest, in a drumbeat of leaks, mostly from unnamed government sources that make Colonel North look like the kind of guy who might go one step too far in the wrong direction and then not always tell the whole truth about it later.
According to other anonymous leaks, Colonel North was once hospitalized for emotional problems, but concealed it from the White House, told a colleague he had a plan to kidnap prominent Iranians and swap them for American hostages, testified under oath that he served 2 tours in Vietnam, though government records show only 1, and swore that he won several Purple Hearts, although the true number is 2, and that he repeatedly implied that he had been with President Reagan one-on-one, while White House records say he never met with the president alone.
I know of at least one meeting where I've done reporting on where Oliver North saw the president in the company of 8 or 10 people and came back and told people that he had just seen the president, implying that he had been with the president one-on-one.
At least one of the leaks undercutting North's credibility clearly came from the White House, but reporters who've covered the story tend to believe there is no organized effort to discredit North.
I think that individual people who come in contact with North over the years and who have seen him operate and have heard what he has said and so forth have raised questions about different things that he said, but I have not seen any orchestrated campaign by the White House or anybody else.
North insists he looks forward to telling his story under oath.
I continue to look forward to the opportunity to give all the facts that I know in the appropriate forum and at the appropriate time.
Legal experts say that when and if North ever does testify, he could be cross-examined about much of this, and the result could leave his credibility so tattered that the public might never be satisfied that the true story really had come out. Forrest.
Fred Graham in Washington. Thank you, Fred.
As Italians woke up in Rome this morning, candles were still burning in many apartment windows. It was a protest against the official visit of General Wojciech Jaruzelski. The Polish communist leader is meeting with Pope John Paul today. And as Mark Phillips reports, they'll talk politics, not religion.
No single event of this visit by General Jaruzelski to Italy was more important than this morning's meeting with Pope John Paul II. The Pope, as Poland's favorite native son, has an immense following in his homeland, and Jaruzelski needs his acquiescence, if not his active support. Even during yesterday's meetings with Italian political leaders, Jaruzelski was given lectures on civil rights and caught glimpses of several demonstrations in support of the suppressed Solidarity trade union movement. With the Pope, Vatican officials said Jaruzelski would be lectured on the need for dialogue. This has been taken to mean more say for ordinary Poles in their country's affairs. The last time the Pope visited Poland, his remarks on civil rights encouraged the Solidarity trade union movement. On his next visit in June, John Paul II will again have it in his power to encourage social peace or to turn the heat up under the Solidarity pot once more. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Rome.
There is a crude awakening on Wall Street this morning. Ken Prewitt joins us with a look at oil prices. Good morning, Ken. I gather that move is upward.
Still going up for us. For the first time in a year, crude oil is over $19 a barrel. Crude for February delivery went up another 24 cents in New York trading, partly because of an escalation of the Iran-Iraq war and partly because of a bitter cold spell in Europe. Rising crude prices led to higher oil stocks on the New York Exchange, and they helped push the market to its sixth consecutive record high for the year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average moved up another 3.5 points. It's up to 2009 this morning. The market's record came in spite of weakness in three of the stocks that make up the industrial average. GM fell an eighth. It's going to cut production at its plant in Leeds, Missouri. GM is also going to sell its bus manufacturing business to Greyhound. No word on the price. Owens, Illinois plunged 3 7/8 to 51 1/4 as it turned down a $55 a share tender offer from the investment firm Kohlberg Kravis Roberts. Keep an eye on that one today because after the market closed, that bid was raised to 60. And IBM fell 1 7/8 as the securities firm cut its earnings estimate. In London this morning, gold is down 20 cents an ounce at 408.50. Silver is unchanged at 555, and the American dollar is trading lower overseas this morning.
All right. Thanks very much, Ken. A dramatic reenactment of the deadly Amtrak crash is pointing to human error as the possible cause. Officials recreated the collision yesterday, sending 3 Conrail locomotives to the crash point. The crash January 4th between Conrail cars and an Amtrak train killed 15 people. In yesterday's test, warning signals were clearly visible, and the locomotive stopped well before the crash point.
Record cold continues its grip across Europe. Worst hit the Soviet Union. Temperatures there are dipping to 40 degrees below zero. It's so bad they're using blowtorches to warm up the diesel fuel in trucks. But the second coldest winter in Russian history is no big deal to some hardy folks. Here at home, a very different weather picture. Gusty winds are causing some trouble along the California coastline. Winds from 30 to 40 miles per hour, driving seas as high as 6 to 8 feet. A heavy surf advisory is in effect for much of the coastline, so be careful on the beaches. Elsewhere, a sunny day ahead for many regions from the Carolina coast right into the Rockies. One more day of warm weather for the plains. The only wet weather, southern Texas and the northwest coastline. It's now 9 minutes after the hour.
This is the TV8 Morning News. Here's Allison Gilman.
Good morning. We have clear skies in Des Moines and 34 degrees at this hour. Iowa Governor Terry Branstad will deliver his Condition of the State speech to the new General Assembly at the State House at 10 o'clock this morning. Branstad will reportedly ask lawmakers for a 4-cent per gallon increase in the state gasoline tax during the next 2 years. Sources say the governor will make his request in the context of promoting a plan for the state's economic growth. The governor's plan is called Iowa Transportation 2000. It would improve highways, railroads, airports, and waterways in the state. A 76-year-old Des Moines man was killed last night when he was hit by a car while crossing the street on the city's southeast side. Authorities identified the victim as Frank Tallarico of the 1900 block of Southeast 1st Street. Police accident investigators say Tallarico stepped in front of a car last night when he was crossing the street at Southeast 1st and Edison. He died of multiple injuries. The car was driven by 73-year-old John Mitchell. No charges will be filed. The Carlisle City Council last night voted in favor of a plan to pave a controversial mile-and-a-half stretch of road as a main north-south artery through town. Council chambers, though, overflowed with angry property owners who said the project would cost too much, it's unnecessary, and it would change Carlisle's cozy, small-town image.
I believe in progress, but progress is not always mortar and steel. Progress is a quality of life. In my opinion, for what I want in quality of life, it isn't being conservative or staying with the status quo. The kind of community that I would like to see Carlisle be isn't a bunch of new streets and a lot of mortar and a lot of steel.
But the council disagreed and voted unanimously for the paving, saying the project is long overdue. The council calls the paving plan progress, but protesters outside last night's meeting obviously had a different opinion. I'll have more news and weather right after this.
TV8's John Pascuzzi not only talks about the stars, he talks with them. John Pascuzzi, he's your man at the movies. John Pascuzzi, exclusively on TV8 News.
Today's forecast calls for mostly sunny skies and highs that could reach the mid-50s. And that's a beautiful forecast for today. We have lows in the lower 30s tonight with partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow's high near 40 degrees, getting colder and cloudy. Our temperature right now in Des Moines is 34 degrees with winds out of the south at 9 miles an hour. Our humidity is 85%, and I'll have more news and weather in about 10 minutes. Stay with us.
In Texas, the death penalty has been postponed 60 days for convicted murderer Larry Anderson. He was to have been executed today by lethal injection. It's been 10 years since the landmark execution that reopened a barrier to capital punishment. Jerry Bowen recalls the Gary Gilmore case.
That frigid January morning at the Utah State Prison a decade ago marked more than the end of Gary Gilmore, the defiant, self-destructive murderer who fought to have his execution carried out.
I simply accepted a sentence that was given to me. I took them literal and serious when they sentenced me to death.
Gilmore's death by firing squad in the prison's old cannery building marked the beginning of the end for scores of other condemned murderers, the end of America's judicial moratorium on capital punishment. In the 10 years since, 66 men and 1 woman have been executed in this country by electrocution, poison gas, or lethal injection.
The large major countries who do use the death penalty in the kinds of numbers that we're talking about here now are the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China and the Republic of South Africa and the Ayatollah's Iran.
And Death Row America is growing at the rate of 250 inmates a year. More than 1,800 people are awaiting execution, albeit, unlike Gilmore, virtually all are appealing. Texas, leading the nation with 20 executions, has so many condemned prisoners, it set up a death row garment factory just to keep them busy.
They're real good workers. They sit down, they do their job, don't give us any trouble at all.
And there continues to be overwhelming support for the death penalty, according to a Media General Associated Press survey. 86% of Americans want it. Just under half those polled believe it should be applied to more crimes than murder, including rape, child molestation, treason, and drug dealing.
I appreciate that some people within our state are impatient to see executions.
It was public opinion expressed on the ballot last November that turned California Supreme Court Chief Justice Rose Byrd and 2 associates out of office. At issue, the Byrd Court's record for reversing death penalty cases. Not since 1967, when Ronald Reagan was California's governor and Ed Meese, the state attorney general, has there been an execution in the San Quentin prison gas chamber.
It is the order of this court that you shall suffer the death penalty.
Now, California's death row has grown to over 200 inmates, and the Reagan view of capital punishment has come to represent the national mood.
Capital punishment is a very necessary punishment, and it definitely is a deterrent. First of all, it's 100% deterrent upon everyone upon whom it's been successfully imposed.
Nationally, 10 years after America resumed capital punishment, the murder rate has dropped by 18%. But is that due to enforcement of the death penalty? In Texas, the leader in legal executions, The murder rate was unchanged over the decade. Many questions remain 10 years after Gary Gilmore, 10 years after the death penalty was judged to be legal. Is it applied fairly? If so, why aren't all convicted murderers sentenced to death? Is the handing down of the death sentence influenced by race? The U.S. Supreme Court is considering that very question now. And is it moral? Is it moral to kill to demonstrate that killing is wrong? 10 years later, the questions are very much alive. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Coming up, today's top stories. Robert Krulwich unravels the mysteries of Swiss bank accounts and some medical news on brittle bone disease.
Wednesday on CBS.
I'm looking for the man who killed Maxfield.
You two-bit gumshoe.
I loved Willie.
Laughed away all the way to the gas chamber, wise guy.
I could make all your dreams come true.
I'm not playing, Mr. Magnum. Something about this business stinks.
Join us for a very special all-new episode of Magnum P.I. Then...
Whatever's happening, it's big.
I'm going to set a price on this game that even Robert McCall will be unwilling to pay.
Will you help me?
Let's just try and keep you alive.
The Equalizer, Wednesday.
Sawtooth, Caribou, Sierra, Chippewa, Ozark, Shaw.
The human body and weight loss. The Nutrisystem approach.
I lost 78 pounds. 2 weeks, 10 pounds.
Nutrisystem takes weight off and helps keep it off. That's why Nutrisystem guarantees you'll reach your goal or pay no more for the service until you do.
Call Nutrisystem now and you'll receive half off the cost of the program. 2 centers in Des Moines and also locations in Fort Dodge and Ames. Call today.
When it comes to thinking of new ways to crash test cars, no one goes farther than Volvo. Volvo, a car you can believe in.
TVA News takes you there, to the tearful scene in Kellogg as 5 children leave for new homes after losing a legal battle to stay with their foster parents. To a violent shootout as a Des Moines man fires at 4 would-be robbers. And former council member George Nahas becomes Des Moines' 63rd mayor, filling the vacancy left by the death of Mayor Pete Rivero. Be a part of it all. News Alive on TV8.
Catch the news on live TV8. Be a part of it all. You've got to make your life work. Keep up the fight. Treat your high blood pressure. Treat yourself right.
Take your pills, watch your weight, cut down on salt. Follow your treatment every day for you and those who love you.
Treat your high blood pressure. Treat yourself right.
Quote, I'm going to give you a chance to become a martyr. There is no evidence North ever tried to make good on his threat. Swiss authorities are expected to open 2 secret Swiss bank accounts controlled by Colonel North to Justice Department investigators by the end of the month. Now, with these Swiss bank accounts so much in the news these days, our economics correspondent Robert Krulwich decided to find out more about them, and I just see that you just stopped at virtually nothing to do it.
Yes, I did. Well, first of all, Forrest, I can tell you that it is not hard at all to open a Swiss bank account. Let me illustrate right now. Let's take an average guy with a lot of money that he wants to hide. Now, this man, whose identity we are protecting on this program, has heard all his life about stashing loose cash in Switzerland. But he wants to know, how do I open a Swiss bank account? Well, the easiest way is take your money to Switzerland, get off the plane, and walk into any bank.
Yep, there's more banks in Switzerland per head than anywhere else in the world.
Nicholas Faith says a Swiss bank will do just what your own bank does. Ask for an ID, fill out a signature card, hand you some forms, and take your money.
And one bank asks, what currency do you dream in?
In other words, do you want your money in francs or dollars or marks or gold? You have to make the choice. If you can't get to Switzerland, cities like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles have branches of Swiss banks, and we visited 5 of the 6 here in New York and asked if we could open a secret Swiss, not New York, but Swiss account by mail. My producer, Bob Mayer, never mentioned his name. He carried a large manila envelope against his chest, which he never opened, knowing nothing about us. 2 of the banks gave us applications, Swiss applications, so you might be able to do the whole thing by mail. Next question. Our businessman's next question is, once he deposits his money in Switzerland, how much interest do they pay?
This fellow is clearly a very innocent soul indeed.
All the banks we spoke to pay no interest, 0 interest on savings accounts. And a few years ago, many Swiss banks charged their customers interest. You had to pay them, which leads us to our next question. Our businessman is beginning to wonder, so why bother? After all, why do it?
Well, he's doing it either because he's trying to escape the tax people or the police, or in the case, I think, of a great many Americans, and I think that's the increasing one, is the wife's lawyer.
In a divorce action, your wife cannot know what you have stacked in Switzerland. It is a crime punishable by a fine and jail for any bank employee to reveal a client's name, even if the client is a crook, an American crook. The Swiss will not let the DA see that account unless the crime he is charged with in America is also a crime in Switzerland. Now, guess what? Tax evasion and, until recently, insider trading are not crimes in Switzerland. Very convenient for the Swiss. One more question. Our businessman knows about President Marcos's Swiss account and President Duvalier's Swiss account and now the secret Contra Swiss account because they're all in the papers. So he wants to know, how secret is this really? Why are the Swiss telling secrets now? Well, one answer is 20 years ago, if American investigators wanted to see an account and the Swiss said no, there was nothing the Americans could do. But today, because more and more Swiss banks are opening in branches in New York and California, U.S. courts have the power now to freeze those accounts, subpoena those managers. Because the Swiss opened offices here, they're vulnerable now. That's why in big league cases, insider trading, Contragate, the Swiss are a little more compliant these days. However, small-time tax cheats, little divorce cheats, they're still probably pretty safe in Switzerland.
What about Lieutenant North now and his accounts?
Well, Swiss authorities are expected to release information on 2 of his accounts. I think the Justice Department is asking for more now, but 2 in the next 10 days or so. So we'll have that information then.
All right. Thank you, Robert Krulwich. Some interesting medical reports this morning. First, a study affecting women past menopause who take calcium pills to prevent bone loss. Researchers in San Francisco say calcium pills alone will not stop bone loss, but leads to osteoporosis. The study says calcium must be combined with supplements of the hormone estrogen in order to be effective.
And more medical news tomorrow on the CBS Morning News. We'll look at pediatric emergency care.
When you apply Lorsban 15G rootworm insecticide in front of the covering wheel, you get a band of protection shaped like a T. T-band with Lorsban 15G. You get banded and in-furrow protection from the surface for cutworms to the root zone for rootworms. T-band with seed-safe Lorsban 15G. In conservation or conventional tillage, it's the best way yet to control rootworms, cutworms, wireworms, grubs, and seed corn maggots too. T-band with Lorsban 15G. For corn security.
Here's some fabulous funnies from America's favorite game show.
Oh, can we start over?
No, come on, let's keep going. A show that's got belly laughs.
Haven't we?
Yes, we have.
And lots of talent.
Okay, on 3, do your trick. 1, 2, 3.
Pat Sajak, a host with no hang-ups.
Hey, it's a living.
And Vanna White. They'll make the show a hit. Be a kid again with Wheel of Fortune. It's just too much fun to miss.
Wheel of Fortune at 6:30 on TV8.
Wait till you see the changes we're making at Howard Johnson.
This is Howard Johnson? This is Howard Johnson?
Är det verkligen Howard Johnson?
This is Howard Johnson?
If you haven't stayed with us recently, you may be in for a surprise.
This is Howard Johnson.
We're changing our rooms, our furnishings, and there's a new attention to service.
This is Howard Johnson.
This is Howard Johnson.
This is Howard Johnson.
You did it, think was in, you gave me something I really like. More satisfaction. You did it, think was in, you gave me a way to eat right. Eat right. More satisfaction. You did it, lean cuisine. You gave me more, much more. You gave me more. You gave me taste I never had before. Lean cuisine. More satisfaction with you.
This is the TV8 Morning News, brought to you by M&M Sales. Here's Allison Gilman.
Good morning. Under clear skies here in Des Moines, we have 34 degrees at this hour. 3 men arrested last August in one of the largest drug busts ever in Dubuque received prison terms yesterday. A U.S. district judge sentenced both 21-year-old Kevin Kane and 24-year-old Doug Nyans to 3 years in prison for conspiracy to distribute cocaine. Kane's 25-year-old brother James was sentenced to 8 years in prison for conspiring to sell. Iowa Governor Terry Branstad will deliver his condition of the state speech to the new General Assembly at the State House at 10 o'clock this morning. Branstad will reportedly ask lawmakers for a 4-cent per gallon increase in the state gasoline tax during the next 2 years. Sources say the governor will make his request in the context of promoting a plan for the state's economic growth. The governor's plan is called Iowa Transportation 2000, and it would improve highways, railroads, airports, and waterways in the state. In keeping with the trend of designated smoking areas at many places of business in the state, Iowa lawmakers may now have to watch where and when they light up when they're at the State House. The House Rules Committee yesterday recommended that state representatives leave House chambers before lighting a cigarette, regardless of whether or not the House was in session. Current House rules ban smoking in the chamber only when the legislature is in session. The full House will debate the proposal later this week when it adopts its governing rules for the next 2 years. A 76-year-old Des Moines man was killed last night when he was hit by a car while crossing the street on the city's southeast side. Authorities identified the victim as Frank Tallarico of the 1900 block of Southeast 1st Street. Police accident investigators say Tallarico stepped in front of a car last night when he was crossing the street at Southeast 1st and Edison. He died of multiple injuries. The car was driven by 73-year-old John Mitchell. No charges will be filed. I'll have a weather update right after this.
When it comes to choosing your office copier, price is not the bottom line. It's service after the sale. That's why M&M Sales Company now offers the security blanket that covers in writing all aspects of copier sales and service, like continuous copier performance, a certified trade-in allowance, maintenance and supply cost, and service response time, all guaranteed. So don't worry. Get that secure feeling with the security blanket, only at M&M Sales Company.
A potential record breaker in the forecast today. We're expected to have sunny skies and high temperatures that could reach 55 degrees. Tonight we'll have lows in the lower 30s with partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow highs near 40 degrees and it's going to turn colder and cloudy. Our current temperature in Des Moines at this hour is 34 degrees with winds out of the south at 9 miles an hour, humidity at 85%, barometric pressure about 30 inches and falling. And I'll be back with more local news and weather in about a half hour. Stay with us.
Program Sophia Loren, funny woman Roseanne Barr, and high fashions on a low budget.
Plus actor Martin Sheen and magician Ricky Jay on the morning program.
An update now on the morning headlines. A French photographer was taken hostage today in Beirut, Lebanon. A colleague escaped. The kidnapping comes as hostage negotiator Terry Waite begins his newest mission in Lebanon. Pope John Paul II met today at the Vatican with Polish leader Jaruzelski, and the American yacht Stars and Stripes beat New Zealand today in the first race of the Challengers Final. The winner will face Australia for the America's Cup.
We have told you this morning about the terrible winter cold in Europe. Well, even London's Big Ben isn't escaping from the big chill. Temperature hovering around 26 degrees, and Ben is suffering from a cold. Listen to this. Yes, indeed. That is Big Ben ringing. Now, here's what happened. The rubber fitting on the hammer that hits the big bell simply froze, and that left a dull clunk. And I think in that kind of weather, I wouldn't mind hearing a dull clunk. That's probably how I'd feel. That is the CBS Morning News for this Tuesday, January 13th. I'm Forrest Sawyer.
And I'm Faith Daniels. We thank you for joining us. You have a great Tuesday.
This is CBS.
When it's time to replace your old windows, look for the high-quality window that's energy efficient, convenient, and looks great in your home. MaxiTherm Vinyl Line Windows. Unlike wood or aluminum, MaxiTherm Vinyl Line windows are warranted not to warp, chip, or corrode. Each custom-made window is treated and certified for weather tightness and strength, carrying the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Add flare and design to every room in your home and lower your fuel bills at the same time with MaxiTherm. Learn more about MaxiTherm vinyl line windows. Call today.
In Ottumwa, tune to translator channel 74 for better reception of TV8.